What's up, folks? Devin here, Avarice Podcast. I came for the beer and the bitches. So, as you know, I'm balls deep in the Halloween franchise. That's my shit. And I get a Google News feed on my phone because I have a Pixel. Just kind of go over to the left. Anyway, Esquire.com, of all places, decided to put out a ranking of, quote, all the Michael Myers sequels. And it is all sorts of bad. I have a shitload of problems with this that I want to unpack. So buckle up, because this might be a long one. Coming at you! Yeah! I like to party. It's not as offensive as this one. And creepy shit. So his own fat ass. I like to party. What a 15-year-old would think is cool or funny. A 10! A 10! A fucking 10!
What is that, velvet?
Okay. So, instead of just trying to summarize all my issues with this and remember all the things that I thought they got wrong, I'm just going to go through the article here, and as the issues come up, I will address them. Okay, so this is Esquire.com. If you're looking for the article, just Google Esquire Halloween sequels, and it should be the first result right there. Okay, so the title of the article: every movie in the Michael Myers Halloween series ranked. Make note of that. They clearly said Michael Myers. Okay. So, we go down. Everybody's trying to get in on the Michael Myers steez these days. Okay, so I assume you're a Halloween fan if you're watching this video, at least schooled in the franchise somewhat. You, as a horror fan, as a Halloween fan, having knowledge of the franchise, having seen most, if not all, the movies, a few, if not several hundred times. Dollars to donuts, if I asked you what the worst movie in the franchise is, your answer, probably 70% chance, your answer would be Halloween Resurrection. Damn near everybody thinks Halloween Resurrection is the worst movie in the franchise. And in my opinion, they're right. It's garbage. It has no identity. It doesn't know what direction it's going in. They do the bait and switch, making us think that Laurie's going to be there. They kill her off in a meaningless death, totally anticlimactic, right at the beginning of the movie. And then Michael, almost symbolic of the audience's feelings from this point on, wanders off into the woods, and now he's just got to go back to the Myers house because where else would he go? And there's a bunch of people we don't care about there for a reason that's really contrived, and it's all super reality TV, real world, virgining internet generation bullshit. It's just garbage. You got Tyra Banks and Busta Rhymes in there, which doesn't really make any sense. Seems like Busta Rhymes wrote his own dialogue. He gets to kick Michael's ass. It's just from top to bottom, everything about it is wrong. Other than maybe the mask, I'm so zonked out by how bad the movie is that I can't recall what the mask looks like off the top of my head. I just care that little about that movie. Anyway, so we'll go to their list now. You would expect Halloween Resurrection to be at the bottom, right? Wrong. Halloween 2 from 2009, so that's Rob Zombie's H2. Okay. I mean, that's definitely in my bottom 3, so you're in the ballpark. I'm curious to know what your argument is for that being worse than Halloween Resurrection. I know that it's a matter of splitting hairs because they're both horrible, so it's like, do you like 90% shit in your sandwich, or do you like 94% shit in your sandwich? I get it, but it's a ranking, so those kind of things matter. You can't just say, well, this one's the best and everybody else sucks. You chose to rank them, so you need to rank them. Anyway, so Halloween 2, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 from 2009 comes in at number 11. I'm not going to read what they wrote about it because it's straightforward enough. We all understand where they're coming from. Number 10, Rob Zombie's Halloween from 2007. I know that a lot of people have a strong dislike for this movie. but I think that it's a bit of a disservice to rank it this low. I know that the Rob Zombie movies are sort of the redheaded stepchild of the franchise, and I understand where people are coming from with that, because the core or the essence of what makes Michael Michael is completely thrown out the window in those movies, and they are just Rob Zombie movies with Halloween in the title and a mask that looks mostly similar to a Michael Myers mask. So I get that, but there are enough elements, whether they were forced in there by the Akkads or the people that own the IP, or if they were Rob Zombie's own choice, whatever, there are enough small elements that call back to the original from 78 in this film to warrant it being ranked above some of the other films on this list. So right away, we've got No Resurrection at the bottom, which is suspicious. And then second worst film in the franchise, we've got Rob Zombie's Halloween. Yeah, there's probably a few people who agree, but I think that they're really off base on this. We haven't gotten to the really angering parts yet, so we'll keep going. Okay, number 9. Halloween 666. The Curse of Michael Myers. Michael fucking Myers. Literally. Maury, paternity test says, Michael, you are the father. Time to pay up, bitch. I don't have any pockets in this jumpsuit. I don't have a wallet. She can have my knife and half my mask. No, sorry, that's Rob Zombie's H2. Okay, so number 9, Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers. This one might be one of the most polarizing films in the franchise, other than, say, H2O. I think those are the two. And a lot of it's because of when they came out. There is, even though they're only a couple years apart, I think that there's a bit of a generational divide where people who are just a little bit older have more attachment to 6, and people who are younger like me, who were, preteen when H2O came out, like that one better. Again, we have The Curse of Michael Myers, which is fucking horrible. I mean, they throw Michael into a weird cult. He fucks his aunt. Even if that's not in the theatrical release, that baby came from somewhere, and we see in the producer's cut the intention was for Michael to be the father. So we have incest, we have Michael being like, he's just standing there like a fucking guard dog waiting for Wynn to order him around. We have the Paul Rudd supposed to be Tommy Doyle. He doesn't look anything fucking like him. I get all of that. But it has elements there because it was written by a fan who had a vast knowledge of everything that came before it. He worked stuff in that felt like we were back to Halloween again, at least in some fashion. Unfortunately for him, 5 left him in such a quandary that he had to come up with some sensational bullshit just to try to fit it all together and make it a story. We really should have just skipped from 5 to H2O, and this one shouldn't have existed. That's not to say that it is worse than 5. It's just 5 had already shit the bed, and there was no point in trying to make it after that. We need to clean the sheets. Okay, so that's all I have to say about that. Now we finally, at number 8, we have Halloween 5 from 1989. So they're saying that this movie is better than Rob Zombie's H1, and it's better than Curse of Michael Myers. And that's just not true. This movie is the reason that Curse of Michael Myers was the way it was, and it was still better than this. This movie's got the wrong tone. It feels gothic. It's got the campy fucking music when the cops come on. The cops are imbeciles for no fucking reason. The mask looks totally different. I'm looking at it right here on the article. He's got a receding hairline jammy going on now. He's got this droopy face. There are indentations up here like he's frowning. The mask is actually showing emotion. It's never fucking tucked in. Donald Shanks had long hair and a ponytail, so he couldn't wrap the mask all the way around, and it's flayed open like this. He holds the knife like a fucking... Oh. The Myers house is offensively bad. There's cobwebs all over the the cobwebs are just the fact that it looks like this old Victorian style mansion, and that is not at all what the Myers house looked like. Loomis is off his rocker. the best part of the movie should have been Danielle Harris, and you didn't have her speak for half the fucking film. Like, this movie is a cunt hair better than Resurrection. Just a cunt hair. My bottom three is Resurrection, Halloween 5, Rob Zombie's H2. In that order. So from worst to not so worst. So, yeah, Halloween 5 is... The writing that they write about it is somewhat accurate. They say that it was essentially more of just a death throw than an attempt to maintain or revitalize the franchise. But their error is that they think that Halloween 4... They even think we'll get there. Okay. So then, number 7, they have Halloween 4 from 1988. And I want to read what they wrote here. This is just a categorically bad film that attempted to find a franchise still lost in the weeds. Donald Pleasance returns as Dr. Loomis, but that's about where the fanfare stops. Criticized for its lack of direction and actual suspense, Halloween 4 is a bit of a non-starter and isn't actually bad enough to be noted upon. This is what happens when people who don't know what they're talking about try to make a ranking. It isn't actually bad enough to be noted upon, yet you noted upon it. Just the fact that you wrote that deems it false. Okay. Loomis is back. They got that right. That is not where the fanfare stops. Michael is back. Are you kidding me? We just had Season of the Witch, where there was like everybody was expecting Michael and they didn't get Michael. I've never seen Season of the Witch, so I won't say it's a bad movie, but I know it's not great. So we've got Michael back. Of course, they did the bait and switch on this one where they put that beautiful silhouette of his mask on the poster, and then we got one that looked more similar to that in the movie. That's a whole nother story. The mask is one of my main issues with that film. It's aged well with me. The more I look at the essence of the original film and what the intention was and the feel of it, the environment, the vibe, the more I look at Halloween 4 and think that it's one of the better sequels. I rank it 4th, coincidentally enough, on my list. So they have it, they have it 7th? Yeah, they have it 7th. So they say it lacks suspense, which is totally inaccurate. It's one of the better sequels at building suspense. You have the Jamie getting separated from Rachel, and it's dark, and there's like the fog, and she's the alleyways, and whoever you are, I have a big dog with me, and he bites. Bitch, you're standing in the middle of the sidewalk. I can see you ain't got no fucking dog. Anyway, the Meeker is great. The whole way that the final scene, it's not really the final scene because the final scene's over. The way that house pursuit is shot, Michael coming out of the darkness, going back into the darkness. They had a better understanding of how to use Michael than almost every other sequel ever. Like, they really tried. You have budget issues, you have production issues, continuity with the mask. They were forced to write, they had like 11 days to write the script, so it's a miracle they came up with it anyway. But to say that it's the 7th worst, so we still haven't gotten to Resurrection. We have still not arrived at Halloween Resurrection, but we've gotten to Halloween 4. There is no... It is not possible in this universe or any universe for Halloween Resurrection to be better than Halloween 4. I'm sorry, I'm not saying Halloween 4 is a great movie. It's got a lot of flaws. But when it comes to comparing it to the original, which is the gold standard, it comes a hell of a lot closer than Resurrection. It's not even... There's not even a way to quantify it. It's like a stopwatch and a sundial. Like, they're not even in the same league. Okay. Now we've gotten to number 6. So smack dab in the middle of the franchise. There's 11 movies in this list. 6 would be the dead center, 5 on either side. So in the dead center, basically the C, like if Halloween 1 was an A, the end was an F, this is the middle. This is the 50th percentile. Halloween Resurrection from 2002. So what they wrote, which is a bit of burying the lead kind of tongue-in-cheek, Halloween Resurrection deserves your respect and admiration. First and foremost, Laurie Strode returns in full form after the 1998 venture. But more than that, the film is so incredibly bad that it nearly careens towards being good. Starring alongside Curtis is Busta Rhymes, not a typo, Tyra Banks, not a typo, and Seann William Scott. Oh, wow, still not a typo. Treat yourself. Okay, there's 3 things in this, I believe, that are just factually wrong. Like, they're just plain wrong. Like, it makes me wonder if you even read the movie or watched the movie. Ever. If you've ever seen the movie in your whole fucking life. The person who wrote this. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to journalists or I mean, some of them deserve it. I'm sure you have the best intentions in mind. But I wouldn't make a video talking about a movie that I've never seen and, like, try to review it. Why are you writing about this shit if you don't know what you're talking about? It said, first and foremost, Laurie Strode returns in full form after the 1998 venture. How could you say that if you've seen the movie? She's in it for 2 goddamn minutes at the beginning. She barely does anything and she's fucking killed in the cheapest way. Full form? Full form. I feel like it needs to be clickable so that I can see what your definition of full form is. Let's see, the film is so incredibly bad, it nearly careens towards being good. No, it doesn't. It's not. For me, I can't even think of a movie that's so bad it careens towards being good off the top of my head. But this is definitely not one of them. This article has the vibe like it was written by somebody who's like 18 years old. And they're watching all this in retrospect, or looking all this in retrospect with today's perspective, with today's expectations, and they're totally misunderstanding how it felt in the time period and what it means to the actual fans of the franchise. Starring alongside Curtis is Busta Rhymes, Tyra Banks, that's accurate, and Seann William Scott. And they almost corrected themselves and said that wasn't a typo, or was a typo, and then they said, oh, well, still not a typo. Seann William Scott is not in that fucking movie. Seann William Scott is Stifler. Rookie of the Year kid, Kevin from American Pie, is in Halloween Resurrection. Seann William Scott is most certainly not. At this point in time, Seann William Scott would have cost too much money for a Halloween film. Seann William Scott was a star in 2002. We're talking about the nearing the end of or at least after American Pie 1, American Pie 2. He's getting ready to do the rundown with The Rock. Like, you're not getting Seann William Scott in this fucking movie. Not unless he's going to be the hero, maybe to play the Busta Rhymes role. Maybe it would have been decent then. Trick or treat, motherfucker. So I guess there's only 2 things that are factually incorrect. But just that right there, how can I take anything you said seriously when you've got those 2 major things wrong? This is only like 4 sentences. 2 of them are wrong. I've flown with you twice, you crashed half the time. Coming at you, yeah! Anyway. Number 5. Halloween 2 from 1981. Okay, I might have to take another hit off the vape pen for this one. This is what they wrote about Halloween 2. This is where it all went wrong. After a massive success with the first film, Halloween 2 came along and fell apart so hard that Curtis didn't even return for the 3rd installment. Attempting to recreate the magic of the first, the hospital set film falls into cliché quickly before seemingly stalling out and going nowhere. Most critics agree that Halloween 2 derailed the franchise for a long, long time before correcting course years later. Oh my god. Like, does that just not reek of millennial bullshit, thinking you understand something because you glossed over it because somebody told, like, this is such a lack of understanding of the character, of the film, the essence. Like, what the fuck? Okay, so it came along and fell apart so hard that Curtis didn't even return for the third installment. Well, yeah, she didn't return for the third installment because she wanted to go on to bigger and better things, and she didn't want to be stuck in typecast in this type of role. She didn't want to be known as only being Laurie Strode. And the directive team, the production, the people behind making the franchise were done with it after Halloween 2. Michael is supposed to be dead at the end of Halloween 2. So naturally, Laurie Strode didn't sign on to be in Halloween 3 because Halloween 3 was Season of the Witch and it didn't have anything to do with the fucking story. It's entirely different. It's a different universe. What are you talking about? Okay, attempting to recreate the magic of the first, which of course they were. That's what sequels do. Sorry to let you in a little secret. They contain that information in books. Okay, so attempting to capitalize or recreate the magic of the first. The hospital set film falls into cliche quickly before seemingly stalling out and going nowhere. So it is set in a hospital. You got that part right. Falls into cliche quickly. This movie came out in 1981, you fucking cunt. It wasn't cliche then. Didn't think about that one, did you? Yeah, you've seen a ton of movies where creepy shit happens in hospitals. Not very many of them happened before 1981, but you were born in the year 2000 and you think you know everything. Oh my god, this is just... I shouldn't care this much. It's just a movie, right? It's all fiction, but it's the fact that this gets onto a website like Esquire. I could have written this fucking article 1,000,000 times better than this. And there's no comments section, you notice, because they don't want to hear about how horrible they fucked this up. Okay. So then it quickly or seemingly stalls out and goes nowhere. I will hand you that there are some elements, I would say more a mismanagement of the cinematography, where you're not necessarily sure where these pieces are, where Laurie is, where Michael is, and how the proximity, and if there's any impending doom, if he's closing in. That's something they missed that was huge in the first one. Michael was on the periphery, and he slowly worked his way in and worked his way in and worked his way in, and then, boom, the fucking storm arrived. In Halloween 2, it's a bit more zigzaggy. It doesn't make so much sense, and the suspense doesn't build up as organically. I can give you that. But to say that it goes nowhere, it ends with Laurie shooting him in the fucking eyeballs and then Loomis sacrificing himself by blowing up the room, and then Michael walks out in a blaze and collapses on the fucking ground. And finally, Laurie's boogeyman is gone. Goes nowhere? Goes nowhere. Goes nowhere. I would definitely say that I can't even. Most critics agree that Halloween 2 derailed the franchise for a long, long time before course correcting years later. Okay, I can give you, if you want to argue that Halloween 2 derailed the franchise, I will give you that. I will grant you that. I will accept that. If you can intellectualize that to me appropriately, there is a lane there of logic that I am willing to entertain. And that is that they revealed that Laurie was Michael's sister in that, and they probably didn't need to. And that became the course that we were on from then on. They didn't make Michael superhuman. They didn't ruin the integrity of the character. They didn't do any dumb shit, really. It wasn't executed as well, but sequels really never are, especially in horror. Now, there's a handful of sequels outside of horror that rival their original, their predecessor, but I can't name one in horror. Name one sequel in horror that's better. Well, yeah, you'd have. It's for me. I like some of the Friday the 13th sequels better than the original, but the original didn't have Jason in it, and all the other ones do. It's apples and oranges. Anyway, so if you want to say that it derailed the franchise for that reason, because we got on this family course and we were never really able to get off of it effectively, and that's actually what the 2018 film is trying to do. They're trying to take that back so that Michael's motives aren't solely based on people who share the same bloodline as him. It allows him more freedom and it makes him scarier, because ultimately in films, we don't find it out really till the end of 2, so 2 still plays out almost the same. But in films 4 through, Resurrection, through Rob Zombie's H2, he's only going after family, so you feel less like the impending doom is plausible for yourself because you're not related to Michael. Anyway, so if that's the argument you want to make, I'll give you that. But if that's the argument you're going to make, that it derailed the franchise because it put us on the relative path, then you would have to say, how can you say that they got back on course years later? Because that never got pulled out until, I guess you could say in Halloween 2018 is when they corrected course. They're trying to say that the franchise was ruined by Halloween 2 clear up until Halloween 2018. It doesn't explicitly say that. I'm just trying to extract what the fuck they could have meant by that. I'll give you that Halloween 2 is not as good as the original. I've already said that. But it is the best sequel. By far. It's not even close. Pure, if not only because it's seamless. It feels like one movie. It feels like 2 parts of one movie. They had to up the ante because they were competing with films such as Friday the 13th and other slashers. The gore element had to be there or you were going to miss the boat with your core audience. But they kept the integrity of Michael Myers there. Dick Warlock wasn't horrible. He wasn't bad. I mean, he wasn't great. He wasn't Nick Castle, but he was pretty fucking good. It was the same mask, just looked slightly different, a little bit weathered. The kills that they had were great. They had some great utilizations of the shape. The score was just turned up to 11. And I don't see how... Anyway. So that's number 5. They have Halloween 2, in my opinion, the second best movie in the franchise, ranked number 5. I forgot about this. So remember at the beginning when I said make note of the fact that they put Michael Myers in the title? Here at number 4, we have Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. The 4th best sequel in the Halloween... How did they phrase it? So this would be the 4th best Michael Myers Halloween sequel. Season of the Witch. How'd that work out for you? Season of the Witch, 4th best Michael Myers Halloween sequel. Do I even want to... I didn't read this before. Halloween 3 lands above its predecessor sequel because it was doing its best with a bad situation. More on that, below. Initially, this film was just bad. I mean, it literally doesn't feature Myers. But it also came to establish its own strange cult following as a movie so bad it's actually good. That's a feat in itself and worthy of a higher placement. Okay, so they acknowledged it was missing Michael Myers, so they seem to know that, even though some of the other stuff they wrote doesn't seem to indicate so. They are ranking this movie on the merit of being so bad that it has a cult following. That people go to movie theaters and make fun of the dialogue as a group. What kind of upside down world are we living in? That really sounds like some millennial logic shit. I'm technically a millennial. I was born in 87, but I identify... I identify as an Xennial, thank you very much. I'm more Generation X than I am Millennial. And this just is like, well, it's so bad it's good, man, so that makes it good. No, it makes it bad. It's like if you had a video game character that was so horrible it was hilarious to try to play with him. That doesn't make him good. It's still fun, but doesn't make him good. He's bad. I can't even fucking believe. I know that there is a weird cult following, strange love for this. And I know that some people rank this high on their list of Halloween movies. I personally have it at the bottom, partially because I've never seen it, and more or less because I would just want to omit it, because it doesn't have Michael. It doesn't have anything to do with any of the other movies. It doesn't belong, and so it's just, I just pluck it out of there. Doesn't. So in my ranking video, if you haven't seen, I put it at the bottom. No Michael, doesn't relate at all to the original. That's a bad sequel. If that had actually established this as an anthology series, then maybe we'd be having another conversation. Because then you'd have these weird two, almost like the first part of the series was a two-parter with Halloween 1 and 2. Season of the Witch, then I don't know, Haunting of the Lamp, Rubbing of the Balls, Cleaning of the Socks, Wearing of the One Shoe. I'm not exactly sure what. So if it actually became an anthology series, you might have some merit to claiming this is a good sequel. But in my opinion, if it doesn't have cock shit to do with the original, how is it a good sequel? It doesn't relate to any other movie in the franchise, not one. There's 11 movies in the franchise, and it does not connect to any of them. Oh. Number 3, H2O, Halloween, 1998. So they think H2O was better than Halloween 2. They think H2O was better than Halloween 4. I think that H2O is better than Rob Zombie's Halloween, but I know a lot of people don't. They have Halloween H2O ranked 3rd on this list. I personally rank Halloween H2O fairly high. A lot higher than most, honestly. And again, that's because of nostalgia when I came. That was not the first Michael Myers movie I was exposed to, because my dad was a huge fan. We owned the VHSs. He tortured me with them when I was a kid. I had nightmares all the time. I'm kidding. Don't fucking call to arms or anything. So I have a certain amount of nostalgia attached to it. I have it ranked fairly high. I think I put it like 5th. I can't remember off the top of my head. It might be 6th. So, but 3rd, above Halloween 2, is just fucking... I'm just thinking of how bad the mask situation was in Halloween H2O. There's like 3 different masks. None of them look good. The suit looks really baggy in some scenes. There's no continuity as far as Michael's appearance. His eyes are fine. He's not burned. This is supposed to be a sequel to Halloween 2. They do a little bit of campy shit, like having him, lower himself down from the bar. They didn't use him at all in the same way that John Carpenter did in 78. Halloween H2O was right place, right time. It was the perfect storm. You were coming on the heels of the success of Scream. People are interested in horror movies. Slasher movies are revitalized. You're bringing Jamie Lee Curtis back. She hasn't been in one of the films in 17 years. You're doing the whole 20 years later gimmick. We're rewinding the timeline. We're wiping some other ones off. We're getting this train back on track. All that is why people went to see it. That's why people wanted to see it. But that doesn't mean that it was effective. It's just, like I said, I hold H2O in a certain place in my heart because of the nostalgia. I hold it in a high regard. It'll always be a staple of my movie collection. But I can acknowledge its flaws. I've basically come to the conclusion that it's a stripped down, sanitized, extremely clean delivery version of Halloween. I've said before that if you have somebody who has never seen a Halloween movie and they're kind of into horror, and because the first one is the best, right? But it's more theater of the mind, and you have to have somebody who's willing to apply themselves to that, willing to play the game, willing to pay attention. H2O is less like that. H2O is just more straightforward, single serving. So I've said before, if you had somebody who's never seen a Halloween movie and you were just trying to kind of convince them to start watching them, or you wanted to watch one with them and you didn't want them to run out of the room, this might be a good one. So that kind of fits along with this person who wrote this article having clearly not being a fan of the franchise and having not that much knowledge either. If they just ran through and watched them all real quick, I could see why they would think H2O is one of the best ones, because it looks like you expect a movie to look modern day. Whereas some of the others, they have that grainy look to them. They're lit kind of cheap. They're not shot in California. They don't have the best editing. It's analog. So H2O had the production value. I can give it that. It's nice and glossy and shiny and, teen drama-y. But it's definitely not third on the list. I actually have to read what they wrote here. Listen, this lands high for a lot of reasons. A, Michelle Williams is here. So they're granting it merit as a Halloween sequel because of someone who is in it. What? And B, it largely ignores 4 of the 6 films that preceded it, which is honestly for the best. Halloween is a film, great. Halloween is a franchise, there are many serious bumps in the road. Outside of the top 2 film slots, that is the one that... Wait. Outside of the top 2 film slots, this is the one that felt most true to the original. What? It takes place in California! Okay, felt most true to the original, and it hits on the 20th anniversary, which feels like the appropriate time to check in on Laurie Strode to make sure she's not absolutely bonkers. I'd be curious to see what this person's credentials are, why they were tasked with this job, because there are many serious bumps in the road, I'll give them that. But outside of the top 2 film slots, this one felt most true to the original. So, what number did they have for or number 2 again? They have Halloween 2 at number 5, which is in fact most true to the original. Watch it. It is undeniable. I don't even know what leg you have to stand on to say that H2O is more true to the original than Halloween 2 is. Oh my god. Like, this is okay, maybe I'm figuring it out here. Maybe maybe I am being disrespectful regarding their credentials. Maybe they are somewhat schooled in movies and film. Maybe they watch the original from 1978 and they just completely fucking miss it. They just don't understand. Maybe they like it for, I won't say the wrong reasons, because there's no wrong reasons to like something. But maybe they, like, similar to Rob Zombie. Rob Zombie's a perfect example. Rob Zombie got to remake the original, and he missed almost every single detail about it that made it good. All the theater of the mind, all the shadow play, the lighting, the mood, the atmosphere, all that missing. All of that is missing from H2O. It's shot in California, so I guess you can't complain too much about it not looking like the original. But if we're gonna say that it's the truest to the original, then that probably should get mentioned. Visually, it looks nothing like the original. Michael looks nothing like the original. Yes, they ignored the majority of the sequels, and that was a good decision. But the one that they didn't ignore was Halloween 2, where Michael got all fucked up. You remember? Shot in both eyes, blown up, collapsed, ablaze, flaming. He looked like the Marshmallow Man from Ghostbusters, and somebody was toasting him to make s'mores, and they caught him on fire, and they just decided to flick that motherfucker and get a new one. That's what he looked like. And then we see the mask, the fire melt in the mask, drips down. Bum 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 bum. Mr. Sandman, bring me a dream. Anyway, so I went through that long diatribe to get to the point that they didn't address that in this movie. They just well, they never found his body. How? He was laying right fucking there on fire. Where did he go? What? Well, they never found his body. I mean, Jesus Christ. So, like I said before, I do like Halloween H2O. But when you start pointing out things like that, it's very hard to consider it one of the better sequels. And it's definitely not true to the original. I can't even believe how bad this is. I clicked on this article just for shits and giggles, let's see what they did. And when I saw that Resurrection wasn't the bottom movie, my curiosity was immediately piqued. And I was like, where do they have Resurrection ranked? And I had to scroll to halfway through the list to see Resurrection. And then I realized that Halloween 2 was at number 5, and I was like, oh my god, I gotta dig into this. This list is so bad. I'm gonna have to make a video about it. And here we are, 41 minutes in. I told you it was gonna be a long one. Sorry, buckle up, bitch. Aww, lens caps on. That was a big one. Okay, so if you couldn't gather by process of elimination, comment down below, guess what you think their top 2 are. There's only 2 movies left. Guess what order you think they're in. I will give them this. If the task was only to rank these 2 films, they got it right. So, coming in at number 2, Halloween from 2018. I liked Halloween from 2018. I will have to admit, though, that I like it less than I did when it came out. When Halloween 2018 came out, I was just so fucking excited that there was another Halloween movie and that I was going to the theater to see it. I barely even remembered half the film the first time I saw it because I was just so fucking happy. Like, all these thoughts running through my head, and I was just, yeah, we're fucking doing this. To really pay attention to the nuance and see, and really get a critique of it. And the more I've watched it, and the more I've looked at what they chose to do and thought about their decision to ignore Halloween 2 and weighed all that, I don't look at it as favorably as I did at first. Having said that, I rank it at number 3. So they're not that far off from where I have it. But, essentially, this is a second attempt at Halloween 2 because they're ignoring Halloween 2. So, for purposes of argument, Halloween 2 and Halloween 2018 are equal. They're on the same plane. They are setting out to accomplish the same goal. They are both sequels to the 78 original. So, naturally, they should be compared head to head, at least in my eyes. And Halloween 2 is better. It just is. It feels more like the original. The continuity is way better. The use of Michael is way better. We have all the elements that were in 1 just right back there in 2. Sheriff Brackett, Dr. Loomis, the nurse, everything it's just the same. Whereas 2018, it doesn't feel like the same Haddonfield. A lot of those characters are missing, dead, not mentioned. Like, I forgot to mention in my other video about the flashback scene. Anyway, forget I mentioned that. So I'm curious to read what they said here. In all of its iterations and recreations, the 2018 remake of Halloween is the closest that the series has come to reinventing itself. Curtis returns 40 years after the original as a rightfully jaded, paranoid Strode who has come to be known as the crazy lady who lives down the way. Her legend status comes in handy, though, when she fires back against the insane killer who refuses to die. Okay. 2018, it says it's the closest the series has come to reinventing itself. I actually might have to agree with that. Simply because we might get more than one movie that we actually like out of this run. Whereas, like I talked about before, we get one that we like or that people go and watch, and then the next one is fucking garbage. This is shaping up to at least possibly have a couple of decent movies but they didn't really reinvent themselves. Instead, they went back and tried to get what worked from before and just skip time. My problem with the idea that Halloween 2018 is the start of a long run in the franchise is the age of the story and the people involved. Michael is in his 60s, and we are supposed to be going with continuity from the 78 film, where Michael has a tinge of supernatural to him, but it's never confirmed, and he is mostly human. There's a little bit of mystery, but he's basically human. He bleeds like a man, etc. So you have to reconcile those. If he's in his 60s and he is actually human, mostly human, he's going to get too old to keep this shit up eventually, and that time is coming very soon. So the disconnecting from Laurie Strode that it seemed like they were intending to do in 2018, which they definitely did not do, is kind of inconsequential because this has run its course. This Michael Myers has run its course. It needs to be wrapped up. This timeline needs to be wrapped up. And 10 years from now or whatever, they can reboot it. They don't need to, but they can. But this storyline we're blood from a stone is what we're going to end up at if we keep this up. Okay. Yeah, I have James Jude Courtney on point. Definitely the best Michael Myers since the original. The mask looked fucking great. They missed the boat on a few things that Halloween 2 did better. I actually made a video on my channel. It's called Sequel Battle, Halloween 2018 versus Halloween 2 from 1981. I show you a clip from one movie, a clip from another movie. I explain myself. I do like a little versus thing, which mask is better, which deaths are better, etc. You can go see all that shit and get my full thoughts on 2018 versus the sequel. So, of course, I'm not going to have a whole hell of a lot to say about this. At number 1, they have ranked the original Halloween from 1978, which I think that you probably got on some clown shoes if you have anything else on the top. This is essentially a gimme. None of the rest would have existed without the inception of Michael Myers and the utter badassery of Laurie Strode. You're using that as a criteria for ranking them? The fact that it's the original? Well, no shit. The Babysitter Killer in the late 70s opened up a whole slate of films and spoke to a serial killer anxiety at the time that narratively could not have been better timed. While Michael Myers might be the greatest inception of the series, the film also cemented Curtis as the preeminent scream queen forever. Yeah, I mean, that's just jerking off, whatever. What? They're coming at this from a totally different angle than I would, I guess. Maybe I shouldn't be so angry about it. It's effectively neither here nor there. So that's my rant, my bitching and pissing and moaning about Esquire magazine putting out this ranking of the Michael Myers Halloween sequels series, whatever the fuck, and really having no idea what they're talking about. Anyway, until the next time, this is Devin signing off and saying, be easy.